Everyone thinks classic Nikon cameras are just dusty antiques with good PR. And honestly, I believed that too until I uncovered something surprising about 3 specific Nikon legends. And one of them contains a design choice so strange and so ahead of its time, it really does change the way you see all Nikon cameras, even the newest ones. But don't worry, we'll get into all of that because the real twist doesn't show up until the 3rd camera on this list. So I spent the last few weeks researching Nikon's classic lineup, interviews, forums, repair tech notes, and old Nikon memos. And all of this started as a simple list, but slowly revealed a hidden pattern behind Nikon's design philosophy. And it all leads to a single conclusion that doesn't appear until the end, so stick around because this one should be pretty interesting. So no hype, no rose tinted nostalgia, just the real story behind 3 cameras Nikon photographers still swear by. So here's where it got messy. Every time I thought I had these cameras figured out, I stumbled onto another detail that contradicted pretty much everything else. Different shooters claim different reasons for loving them, and none of their explanations matched. And I realized these cameras weren't just pieces of gear, they were markers and signals of something Nikon understood long before anyone else did. So let's get straight into it. So the first camera is the Nikon FM2, quote unquote the mechanical survivor. So this camera was released in 1982. The FM2 became the benchmark for fully mechanical 35mm cameras. It arrived at a time where Nikon electronic shutters were pretty much taken over, and yet Nikon doubled down on reliability and simplicity. So this is a fully mechanical shutter, meaning it works without batteries or anything like that. Top shutter speed was 1/4000th of a second, which was really unheard of at that time, and flash sync at 1/250th of a second. This camera was compact, durable, and nearly indestructible. It was ideal for documentary photographers and adventurers all alike. Photographers really love the FM2 because it removes everything except for what matters: light, timing, and intention. And I believe these days you can find these going for around $250 to $500 just for the body. Special editions and mint copies may be a little bit more, like $700 plus, but still worth it, and a pretty interesting camera if you're looking to touch on the historical side of cameras. So here's where things begin to get a little bit interesting, because this camera's no electronics philosophy actually connects directly to the most surprising thing I learned about the 3rd camera, which we'll discuss in just a second. Camera number 2, which is the Nikon F3, which is the journalist's workhorse essentially. So this camera was released in 1980, and the F3 was Nikon's flagship for over 20 years, an unusually long reign for really any camera or brand. It was designed by an industrial legend, Giorgetto Giugiaro, who shaped everything from Ferraris to kitchen appliances. This camera featured an electronically controlled shutter, LCD readout in the viewfinder, and massive HP or high eye point prism favored by eyeglass wearers. So this rugged body was built for the worst of the worst, like war zones, and this camera was known as one of the most widely used pro cameras of its era. The F3 represented Nikon's confidence, a camera that should take punishment and really just be able to keep going without any issues whatsoever. So I believe these days you can find these between $350 and $700 USD, while if you want the clean professional service copies, then they might be around $800 to $1,000 plus. But here's what makes the F3 especially so important. There's a tiny feature hidden in this camera, something that Nikon quietly carry forward, and it becomes absolutely crucial when we reach the last camera on this list. But moving on. Camera number 3, which is the Nikon F100, which was essentially known as the bridge to the future. So this is where the mystery teased earlier gets revealed. Launched in 1999, the F100 arrived at the end of the film era, but it wasn't designed as a farewell. Nikon built it to experiment with features that would end up shaping their DSLRs for nearly 2 decades. This camera was a camera that featured a modern style autofocus system, advanced exposure metering, and deep, comfortable grip, which was great for a lot of photographers who cared a lot about ergonomics. The controls on this camera look identical almost to early Nikon DSLRs, and it also works with nearly every f-mount lens ever made. In many ways, the F100 is the missing link. It was essentially known as the prototype for Nikon's digital future, hidden into a film camera's body, which is pretty interesting to me. In these days, these cameras could probably go anywhere from between 150 to 300 USD, but if you want something in pristine or mint condition, it might be a little bit around 350 to around 500 is what I was seeing online while I was doing some research on this camera. So now, let's get into what's actually quite interesting. Remember the hints? Across 3 cameras, Nikon wasn't just designing equipment. They were really testing ideas here. The FM2 shows Nikon exploring pure mechanical reliability. The F3 shows Nikon refining professional ergonomics and durability. And the F100 shows Nikon building the template for digital cameras long before the digital era even began. But here's the twist. That secret detail from the F3, the control layout and grip geometry, is what Nikon silently evolved into the design language of the F100. And that same design language still holds up in Nikon DSLRs and even Z-series mirrorless bodies today. Classic Nikons weren't just quote-unquote old cameras. They were prototypes hidden in plain sight. So remember, at the beginning of this video, I said one camera on this list hit a design choice that changed everything, and now you see it. The F100 wasn't just the end of Nikon's old film era. It was the blueprint for the future, and suddenly the FM2, F3, and F100, they all aren't separate stories. They're just all a part of a timeline, a roadmap of Nikon's evolving identity. So which of these cameras do you think best represents Nikon's legacy? Let me know your answer down below. I would love to see what you all have to say about this. And if you want to see the next part of this series, then subscribe, because we have a lot of interesting videos on this channel, and that would also help me out a great deal, as well as leaving a like. I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by Christmas time. I have a bet with my mom, so if you could support and drop a subscribe on this video, that would help me out more than you could ever imagine, and I would truly appreciate that. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section down below about this, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.